Welcome back to CIA Declassified. Today, the setting takes place in the late 1980s and the 1990s, the dawn of the information age. The Berlin Wall has crumbled, but in the east, a new kind of wall is being built, one made of code, fiber optics, and state-monitored gateways. We are in the smoke-filled internet cafes of Beijing and the quiet apartments of Shanghai. This was the era of the Great Firewall, a time when the world was shrinking, yet millions remained behind a digital iron curtain. The agency realized that the next revolution wouldn't be fought with rifles, but with kilobytes. They sought to empower the voices of the Tiananmen generation, providing the tools to bypass censors and breathe life into burgeoning democratic movements. This was the high-stakes gamble of information freedom. This was QRPLUMB. How did this operation get its name? The designation QRPLUMB follows the cryptonym protocols of the CIA. The QR prefix was historically assigned to projects within the Soviet and East European division, particularly those involving political action and propaganda. The suffix plumb was factually chosen to signify depth and straightness, just as a plumb line is used in construction to ensure a wall is perfectly vertical and true. QRPLUMB was designed to provide a true line of information to populations living under state-controlled media. It was about creating a vertical path for the truth to drop directly into the hands of activists, bypassing the horizontal barriers of government censorship. QRPLUMB was the agency's primary vehicle for soft power in a hard-coded world. QRPLUMB was a CIA-led political action program aimed at supporting democratic movements and anti-communist dissidents, primarily through the distribution of literature, technology, and funding. A quote from a declassified 1991 internal memo: "The objective is to foster an environment where internal pressure for reform becomes unsustainable for the authoritarian center." End quote. Records show that QRPLUMB funded the Prologue Research Corporation, a front company that published books and journals in languages like Ukrainian and Chinese. Documentation confirms that the agency utilized proxy servers in third-party countries to allow dissidents in the East to access banned Western news sites. The program provided encryption software to student leaders in Hong Kong to protect their communications from state intelligence. A quote from a declassified field report: "The packets have been successfully routed. The underground press now has a digital spine." End quote. QRPLUMB established information hubs in Paris and New York to translate and beam dissident manifestos back into their home countries. Logs indicate that the agency coordinated with human rights NGOs to smuggle satellite phones and modems across the border. Technical files reveal that the program developed stenography tools, hiding secret messages inside innocent-looking digital images to evade the Great Firewall. Records prove that QRPLUMB monitored the effectiveness of state censorship algorithms to develop countercode. The agency utilized mirror sites to host prohibited content, making it nearly impossible for the state to block all access points simultaneously. Documentation confirms that the operation utilized linguistic analysts to adapt Western democratic concepts into local cultural idioms to make them more resonant. Memos reveal that the CIA used third country nationals as couriers to deliver hard currency to the families of imprisoned activists. The system utilized bulletin board systems in the early 90s to create secret chat rooms for political organizers. Records show that the agency recruited academic exiles to write influential essays that were then smuggled back in as gray literature. The program employed Radio Free Asia and Radio Liberty as the primary broadcast arms for QRPLUMB approved content. Documentation shows that the agency utilized packet switching technology to break up sensitive data into fragments that were reconstructed only at the final destination. Internal ledgers confirm that QRPLUMB subsidized the travel of activists to international conferences to build global solidarity. The operation utilized psychological profiling to identify which government officials were most likely to defect or leak internal documents. Records indicate that the CIA used miniature printing presses that could be hidden inside a standard suitcase. The program utilized secure browsers long before the public adoption of Tor or similar privacy tools. The agency established a secret training facility in Virginia specifically to teach foreign dissidents how to maintain operational security in digital environments. Records confirm that QRPLUMB utilized dead letter boxes and digital forums where passwords were hidden in plain sight within seemingly random strings of text. Documentation shows the agency partnered with sympathetic Western telecommunications engineers to map the physical undersea cable landing points used by Eastern censors. The program distributed thousands of high-capacity floppy disks and later CD-ROMs containing forbidden libraries of political philosophy and economic data. Field reports describe the use of burst transmissions from mobile vans to broadcast pro-democracy content onto state-run television frequencies. Records prove the agency used a technique called DNS tunneling to bypass firewall restrictions by disguise political traffic as standard web address request, by disguising political traffic as standard web address request. The operation utilized front journalists and Western news agencies to plant specific keywords that would trigger fault lines in the state's automated censorship filters. Internal memos confirm that QRPLUMB provided maintenance and repair parts for old printing equipment to ensure underground newsletters never stopped production. The agency utilized ghostwriters to produce over 500 unique political pamphlets that were distributed in the border regions of Tibet. Records show that QRPLUMB subsidized the airfare for over 200 pro-democracy student leaders to attend leadership seminars in Prague. Documentation confirms that the agency utilized electromagnetic interference to protect secret meetings of dissidents from state-deployed listening devices. Reports indicate the CIA provided forgery kits to activists to create a credible identity document if needed for escaping the country during crackdowns. The program utilized microfilm technology to compress entire years of prohibited newspapers into the size of a postage stamp for easier smuggling. Records prove the agency established a secret bail fund to secure the release of low-level activists caught in street protest. Documentation reveals the use of shortwave radio relays located in the Philippines to ensure 24-hour coverage of political news. Logs indicate that the agency utilized ink analysis to help dissidents identify if their secret newsletters were being tracked by government forensic teams. Records show that QRPLUMB utilized prepaid calling cards as a form of untraceable currency to pay informants in rural provinces. Documentation proves that the agency embedded secret digital watermarks in pro-democracy PDFs to track how far they spread through state-monitored networks. Reports indicate that the CIA utilized weather balloon transmitters to drop signals into coastal cities during periods of intense internet blackouts. Memos reveal the existence of Project Paperstorm, where high-speed fans were used to scatter QRPLUMB literature from the roofs of high-rise buildings. The agency monitored the social credit precursors in the late 90s to identify which activists were being targeted for digital isolation. Records indicate that QRPLUMB provided technical support to the first blogger networks in the East, shielding their IP addresses from local police. Documentation confirms that the agency utilized high-gain antennas disguised as residential television dishes to receive encrypted satellite data burst. Logs show that QRPLUMB operatives utilized micro SD cards hidden inside the buttons of tailor-made shirts to transport massive amounts of data across borders. In the declassified archives of QRPLUMB, the most impenetrable black hole of information exists in the volume titled Operation Cyber Mantis Advanced Infiltration. This section contains the most redactions in the entire political action collection, specifically surrounding the technical interdiction log. The error turns static when you reach the supply chain files. A compelling theory suggests the agency didn't just send software. They speculate that the redactions hide a campaign where the agency interdicted computer hardware destined for the East. The theory posits that they installed hardware-level backdoors and routers and servers at the factory level. They believe the black blocs hide the names of global tech manufacturers who were forced or paid to cooperate, giving the agency a master key to the East private network. Looking at the media manipulation folders, some imagine a darker origin for modern social media chaos. This conspiracy suggests the redactions hide evidence that the agency developed AI-generated persona technology in the mid-90s to populate Eastern chat rooms with thousands of artificial dissidents. The theory is that the CIA created a digital phantom army to overwhelm the state's manual censors. They believe the redactions hide the source code for the first true social bots. There is a persistent fringe rumor regarding the biocognitive impact reports. Speculation exists that the redactions hide data on subliminal digital broadcasting. Theorists believe the agency experimented with high-frequency signals embedded in internet audio to induce feelings of optimism or rebellion in listeners. The redactions, they claim, hide the agency's research into the digital biology of revolution. A sharp theory suggests the most heavily redacted sections concern sub-project Skybeam. Some speculate that the agency hijacked regional television satellites for minutes at a time to broadcast pro-democracy imagery directly to millions of homes. They believe the redactions hide the technical telemetry that proves the agency could override national broadcast signals at will, a secret they allegedly still guard today to protect modern infrastructure vulnerabilities. A whispers-only theory floating through the dark corners of the web posits that the 1998 redactions cover Project Void Key. Speculators claim the agency tested a prototype quantum decryption algorithm decades before it was thought possible. They believe the black ink hides the fact that QRPLUMB could read every secure state communication in the East in real time, and the program was only shut down because the tech was too powerful to risk being discovered. Was QRPLUMB a success? Tactically, it was an operational masterpiece. It successfully maintained a line of communication with thousands of activists for decades without being fully compromised. Strategically, it was a long game victory. The operation was a success in that it prevented the total information blackout of the East, ensuring that the seeds of democratic thought remained viable even under extreme pressure. The success of QRPLUMB is found in the survival of dissent. It successfully kept the memory of 1989 alive, turning a local tragedy into a global symbol of resistance. The agency successfully built the first digital underground railroad, a move that saved hundreds of dissidents from disappearance. However, the project's success was also its challenge, the reality that the state eventually learned to use the same tools for digital authoritarianism. It successfully proved that truth as a weapon is the only way to fight a totalitarian regime in the modern age. The mission was a total success in creating global echo chamber for Eastern activists. It successfully established the blueprint for how the agency supports movements in the 21st century. Ultimately, it was a success because the Great Wall of Censorship was breached every single day. The program successfully showed that no firewall is high enough to keep out a determined idea. It successfully integrated computer science with political theory, creating a new front in the Cold War and beyond. The success of QRPLUMB is measured in the quiet courage of those who logged on when it was a crime to do so. It was an undeniable success in identifying and protecting the primary leaders of the Jasmine movement before they could be neutralized. The program successfully provided the technical infrastructure that allowed the samizdat, I always pronounce it wrong, S-A-M-I-Z-D-A-T, I think it is samizdat, of the digital age to flourish. It was a categorical success in developing the first censorship-resistant communication protocols that are now the standard for global activists. It successfully demonstrated that soft power could be scaled through technology to reach millions of people simultaneously. The operation was a success in building a generational bridge between the old guard of political theorists and the new wave of tech-savvy activists. It successfully turned information symmetry into a strategic liability for authoritarian regimes. As far as technological and operational breakthroughs go, the Dragon's Choice resulted in breakthroughs that define the modern internet and individual privacy. For instance, onion routing protocols. The early work on secure pathways for QRPLUMB led directly to the development of Tor and other anonymous browsing technologies used today by journalists and whistleblowers. Encrypted disposable communication. The one-time pad digital messengers created for activists are the ancestors of modern end-to-end encrypted apps like Signal or WhatsApp. Decentralized content hosting. The mirroring techniques used to evade the Great Firewall provided the foundational logic for modern content delivery networks and cloud edge computing. And automated translation algorithms. The need to translate massive amounts of Western literature into local dialects at high speed led to the early machine learning models that evolved into modern AI translation services. QRPLUMB reminds us that the most powerful thing you can give a person is the truth. The Dragon's Choice proved that the agency could reach across oceans and firewalls to touch the hearts of those who dream of liberty. The modems have been replaced by high-speed fiber, and the chat rooms have moved to the palm of the hand. But the struggle for the plumb line of truth continues in every corner of the digital world. We are still living in the world built by those who dared to bypass the gatekeepers, in the global movements that organize in the shadows, and the decentralized networks that no state can fully control. The story of QRPLUMB is a story of a digital fire that can't be put out. The information freedom we often take for granted was forged in the secret battle of the 90s. We must remember that in a world of algorithms, the most radical act is to think for yourself. In the end, the choice was never the dragon's to make. It belonged to the people who chose to look through the crack in the wall. Through QRPLUMB, the agency achieved a presence in the minds of a generation that refused to be silenced. The line remains steady and the truth continues to drop. Every byte of data sent into a closed society is a brick removed from the wall. We are the architects of our own awareness in an age of digital shadows. Thanks for listening. Stay safe, and remember, the most dangerous thing to a wall is a single crack. Join us next time as we examine Monstermind. In the vast server farms of the West, a digital leviathan was born. We'll uncover the facts behind Monstermind, the automated NSA program designed to counter cyber attacks. It was a game of algorithmic warfare, autonomous defense, and the thin line between protection and retaliation. Join us next time for The Silent Guardian. In the meantime, I'll see you in the archives.